Welcome to the Spiritually Lit meeting. Each week, we are honored to host powerful speakers from around the world, sharing their stories, experience, and hope with us. All of our speakers are recorded and shared through our Inogram YouTube channel and our audio speaker WhatsApp group so the message can reach those who need it. If you are listening to this recording and you're struggling, seeking help, or simply have a question, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can contact us anytime at spirituallylit24@gmail.com, and we promise to get back to you. Tonight, we've invited Pat O to share his experience on the topic being on the firing lines for the next 45 minutes. After that, the meeting will be open for sharing back. Pat, we will give you a sign 10 minutes before your time's up. Thank you so much for making the time and share your experience with us tonight. And with that, I'll go straight over to you.
Thank you so much. My name is Pat and I'm an addict.
Hi, Pat.
How's everyone doing? Oh, I can't hear you. Grateful to be sober, grateful to be here. It's good to be amongst the squares. 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I guess I always just say yes, and then I'm like, I get there the day of, I'm like, wait, am I talking on like a specific topic or like, am I doing something? Is this the steps? Is this? And so I better go look in WhatsApp, am I talking for 10 minutes, an hour and a half? Well, it's 45. So thank you, Joey. You did give me all the information. I just, life is so big and so beautiful that I just say yes and show up, you know what I mean? And then I'm like, all right, God, open my heart and direct my words. And then Reggie's like, you never responded to my text. That's why I came here. I'm like, oh my God. So there's an apology to make. Reggie, I love you. I did already send you a text saying I'm sorry, but I don't know about you, but I have the obsessive mind. You know what I mean? And my mind's like obsessing on the fact that oh my God, I didn't say so, I didn't follow through and I owe an amends and oh geez, you're a horrible person and blah blah blah. And I just express all of this, right? Because like naturally, like that's the mind that I suffer from. You know what I mean? I'm a nervous disposition guy. Like I'm always like, I always got the thing. I was sitting at breakfast, a business meeting, like a potential like big business deal. I'm like from Skid Row, like business deal, like what the heck? And I'm like, whoa, I just feel inadequate, not good enough. I'm like, my hands are shaking. You know what I mean? And then I go to the bathroom because I had to go to the restroom and I realized my zipper had been down the whole time, and dude, here I am. I'm glad to be with you guys. Thank you so much for letting me be here. Let's just read it. It says, if any feel that a psychiatrist directing a hospital for alcoholics, we appear somewhat sentimental. Let them stand with us a while on the firing lines. See the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work and even of their sleeping moments. And the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. We feel, after many years of experience, that we have found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. I'm going to read one more paragraph because it says men and women drink and use essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. Duh. You know what I mean? The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic, drug addict life seems the only normal one. They're restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can experience the sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks, a few hits, a few shots, which they see others take with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope for them. And man, I that's like I like to, you always hear that's my favorite part of the book, but this morning that's my favorite part because I just read it, and but how true, like it lays out alcoholism for me, man, and addiction. Spiritually lit, you guys are around the table, I see you there. I love sitting around the table. That's my favorite deal, man, sitting around the table telling stories. And so I think maybe it's a treatment center or a business meeting or something, but welcome. and welcome to our new friends. I have alcoholism. I have the nervous disposition. I'm anxious all the time. I'm a nail biter. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm like, and I have this mind that's like, you know what? All those people at that spiritually lit meeting are totally judging you right now. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, oh, look at Sander. He just turned his head the other direction, and oh man, David S is texting, I don't know, Carol, and they're all plotting against me and Chanel. I don't know. I think, and I have that thing, you know what I mean? I have that separator. The main problem, the alcoholic and the addict centers in the mind, and it's separating me from you guys, boom, all the time. And the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous have given me tools for living that allows me to come into the room and tell you like what goes on between here because I'm always I've always felt isolated and alone, and I always blamed everyone for that. You know what I mean? I was always like, well, you know what I mean? My dad left me, my mom kicked me out of the house, the girlfriend left me, all these people leave me and it's all your fault. But the truth is today, I know today is that mind creates scenarios about people around me. And it tells me things. It's always told me that I'm a loser and I'm a failure and I'm no good. You know what I mean? And when you live in that space of isolation and loneliness, there's a lot of anxiety with the mind that's going. You know what I mean? It's creating things that aren't even true. You know what I mean? Sander turned his head, and immediately my feelings are hurt. You know what I mean? And then I react from a feeling that's not reality, right? But I can't differentiate the truth from the false. I am so lost in that. I call it lost in that sauce that I'm creating solutions to a problem that doesn't even exist. And that solution's like, you know what? I'm never talking to Sander ever again, and I don't even know him. You know what I mean? I don't even know him. He's like, you know what I mean? Probably on the other side of the world. And then next time I go to the meeting and there's Sander, guess what I do? I'm out, bro. Boom. I hit the leave button. I'm leaving the meeting, and I'm reacting from a space that's not true. And the big book talks about selfishness and self-centeredness is the root of our trouble. The root, that means like life-giving. You know what I mean? Right? Like everywhere I go, like I create a thing about right self-centered. Sander probably just looked at his cat over there. You know what I mean? And I created this scenario that's not even true, completely self-centered to the core. And I've lived with this kind of this mental torment my whole life, ever since I remember being a little boy. You know what I mean? And I remember when I got sober, my sponsors, he read that paragraph, right? Men and women drink essentially for the effect produced by alcohol. And I'm like, what about crack cocaine? He's like, well, tell me about that, And I love crack cocaine. Dude, there's nothing better than a bell ringer. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? Boom. You know what I mean? There's nothing matters in that moment right there, right now, dude. I am in the game. You know what I'm saying? I am in. And what happens next is it's like, dude, you need to take another one. Like I want to stay in that bell ring. I like shooting cocaine where it's like I'm gasping for air. You know what I mean? I'm like almost like you're gonna about to die, fight through it, and I get through it, you know what I mean? And it's like, dude, take another one, bro. Like get there again. I don't want to die, but I want to get like almost there, and I'm so grateful I got sober before fentanyl. You know what I mean? These guys are dying like nobody's business. You know what I mean? But like we could at least play the game a little bit, and my alcoholic drug addict life seemed the only normal one. I was like, dude, if I'm pushing a shopping cart, man, then you really got to get sober. No, you know what I mean? I'm homeless, dude. So I just had a friend, he had a shopping cart and we just cruised around all like that, like that. And I thought, man, you need help, dude. You need to go to AA. You got a shopping cart, and so I just justified it, man. I justified my behavior. Like, they talk about lowering the bar, and I look at like how what separated me for so long from getting clean and sober was the simple fact that alcohol wasn't a problem. You know what I mean? I was a full blown full-blown drug addict. I knew it. You know what I mean? I love heroin. I love noodling around on like a meth ride, getting weird on meth and and being fully naked. People are like, put clothes on, dude, and like, dude, that was like a good time. Like I knew like drugs were really causing me some problems. I had some felony charges. I was looking at prison term, but I was like, alcohol's not a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like you could drink alcohol, and then I drink alcohol and then I smoke crack, and I'm like, wait a second, I don't want to smoke crack. And, and then I, justify all that, tequila's bad, vodka's bad, just drink wine coolers, and then that gives you a headache and you don't, wine coolers, man, that's rough. You don't want to hit a bottom on wine coolers. And so like it was just like a continual like trying to control and enjoy my drug use without ending up in CA. Who wants to end up in CA? And I like all your guys' backgrounds. Those are cool. I need to get one so I feel a part of. There's the head again. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, nonstop. You know what I mean? Nonstop. And then I'll get you guys will give me a background. You'll feel bad for me. Send me a background. I'll show up to the other Cocaine Anonymous with your background. And then, and then I'm feeling different it's just like nonsense, and drugs and alcohol took that away, man. It took it away. It stripped it. You know what I mean? Like gave me a sense of relief for however long it lasted until the phenomenon craving kicked off and I needed more and I needed more and I needed more. And the only time I stop is when I'm in jail, period. That's the only time I can stay stopped for a period of time until I find the drugs that are in the institution. And if you're willing to go to any lengths, like I was, literally, you know what I mean? I'm willing to prostitute myself for crack cocaine. Let's just get that out of the way. You know what I mean? Like I don't. There's no like, we're all game. Ralph White says, "Put me in the game, coach." I was literally put me in the game, whatever it takes. And when I got sober on the 23rd of October, like I had crawled out of a motel 3 days earlier, sexually assaulted for the 12th time. I was 98 pounds. Um, I had two shoes, only one had a sole. I had no underwear or socks on because and the only solution I had was to kill myself. You know what I mean? The only solution that I could come up with was kill myself because I knew that if I drank it, did drugs one more time, like I was going to be knocking on the same door that I told myself I wasn't going to go to over and over and over again. I would leave that motel saying, man, I'm not going to end up there again. And I'd swear off that place. And it was the hotel that was the problem. And it was those people that were the problem. And I didn't equate that if I drank or used that I was going to be at that same motel knocking on the door. And how many times before did I promise myself I wasn't going to end up on that motel door and an hour later I'm knocking back. Come on, let me back in, man. Just give me one more hit. You know what I mean? Just give me one more. And I'm back in there and I'm feeling the shame and the guilt. Like, man, you can let yourself do this again. And I don't know that I'm powerless over not doing that, man. I think that I have power. I think that I have access, some sort of power. And I'm sitting there and I'm telling myself, just don't do that. Just take one hit. And I take a hit and I'm doing that again. And I'm thinking, what the heck? Like, is there something wrong with me, man? Is there something wrong with me? I don't understand what's wrong with me. And I come to with shame and guilt when I finally have that moment. I'm like, dude, I'm out of here. And I say, F you guys, and I'm out of here and I leave and I'm not going to go back. And I know I'm not going to go back this time. 30 minutes later, I'm knocking on the door, man. Just give me one more hit, man. I just give me one more hit. And that day on the 20th of October of 2002, man, the only solution I had was to kill myself. Yeah, I'm gonna jump in front of this. It's a moving box truck, and I'm gonna jump in front of it. It's 5:30 in the morning. Liquor store open for 30 more minutes, man. And I'm about to jump in front of this box truck, and that same desperation and loneliness and fear and remorse and just self-hate just screaming at me. The demons telling me what a piece of I am, and the thought crossed my mind to take a bottle of tequila would be a better idea. And my whole body shifted to the left. I went to the liquor store. I waited, so I'll never forget that anxiety, Jeff. I got gonna snap out of my skin. And The lady opened that liquor store. I got the sense of ease and comfort. And I went into that liquor store. I got that bottle of tequila. I put half that bottle back and got that relief. One more time, alcohol saved my life. I start having that conversation, man. This time's going to be different, Pat. I have that fierce determination the book talks about. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get the job and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to make it right with all these people, man. I'm going to do it. I got it. And the second thought said, drink that second half of that bottle. I put that second half of that bottle, and I didn't understand the phenomenon of craving. I didn't understand the obsession of the mind. I didn't understand any of that. Boom, I put that second half of that bottle, thinking that I had choice over that second one. I lost the power of choice when I put the first one in, though I don't know it, man. And I put that second half of that bottle back, and I blacked out for 3 days. And when I came to 3 days later, prostituting myself one more day for one more hit of crack cocaine. Coming to that day, I had a spiritual defense. All I can tell you is God intervened on the 23rd of October. Bottom line, period. I didn't believe in God until I was 10 years sober. But I know today that God intervened, man, because I had this deep intuitive thought that said, call your mom and ask for help. And I picked up the phone. I called my mom. I said, Mom, I need help. And my mom was 26 years sober in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And my mom said, I can't help you anymore. She said, I'm done helping you. She said, but I will send someone from A&A to come get you. And I thought, I'm not an alcoholic, man. I'm a fucking drug addict. Drugs are the problem in my life. And there's that mind, dude. I'm not like you guys, man. I'm separate. I'm different from you. And separating me and is trying to figure out how I could justify and get out of here. I didn't think just get off the motel bed and walk out. And when that guy showed up, I wouldn't be there, man. I had nowhere to go, man. I was done, man. I didn't know I was done, man, but I'm thinking, blah, 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 mine's going, mine's going. And the guy barged in the door. He goes, my name's Jack, and I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict, you know? And I was like, okay, great. You know, and then this other guy was on a walker. He's like, I'm John. I got 90 days sober. You know what I mean? He was like older than Jesus, dude. I was like, man, that guy he needs help, you know? And, but he was happy. He had a smile from ear to ear, bro. And old man John with the walker, you know? And I'm judging those guys, man. Those guys are losers, man. They could have at least sent Reggie, you know, to come get me. You know, I got to send, or Glenn, you know, Charlie, he looks pretty cool. You got to send these idiots. And there's that mind, man, separating me. And this is how I know that when I called and asked for help, I walked into God's grace, man, because that guy Jack said, come with me, kid. The mind going, I got up and I followed Jack out of that motel. Right? And I got to the van. He said, get in the van, kid. I got in the van, man. I got in the van. And I'm sitting back there terrified, man. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know who these guys were. And I know today that those guys were speaking the language of the heart, man. I know today. I know then. And that guy talked about the shame and the guilt and the loneliness and the fear. I knew he understood how I felt. He talked about the remorse, man. He talked about things that I would never share with another human being. He talked about doing cocaine and ending up in the hospital overdosing, promising himself he wasn't going to end up back in the hospital. And the next day he was in the hospital. He talked about the madness between his ears that separated him from everyone in his life. And before he knew it, I ended up at this place called Charlie Street, man. I don't know what spiritually lit is like, but this was like, you know, this was a rough spot, man. It was indigent detox. There was no meds, no therapists, no nothing, man. It was good members of A&A. You know what I mean? A&A, C&A. They had some NAers. They had all the A's, man. All the A's coming up in there. You know what I mean? And they would all tell their stories, man. And I thought, man, I'm not gangster prison enough to go to NA. You know what I mean? And these kind of like nerdy little dudes from AA were there. You know what I mean? And I just felt safe with those nerdy dudes. You know what I mean? These nerdy dudes, bro. They welcomed me. You know what I mean? They read word for word and line for line that book. You know, they talked about their alcoholism and their drug addiction. They talked about the things that happen when they pick up a drink or a drug. They talked about their alcoholic, drug addict life being the only normal one. That's all they knew. They talked about the things and the places that they went. And the best thing that guy Jack did for me was he turned statements into questions. And he said, "What's the effect produced by alcohol for you, kid?" I'm like, "I'm not alcoholic." He goes, "I didn't say you're alcoholic, kid. I asked you, what is the effect produced by alcohol for you?" And I had to go back and I had to look at my story. Thank God you directed me back to my story and allow me to find my alcoholism. You didn't force me upon your alcoholism and your story and your drug addiction, and I needed to be just like you and my consequences need to align with you. None of that. You asked me about me. Nobody was asking me about me. My whole life, everyone pointed the finger at me. If you would just put drugs and alcohol down, your life would get better. That's not my experience. I put drugs and alcohol down and my life gets worse. And I don't understand why it gets worse because you're all of a sudden, you're like the big president. You know what I mean? You have a family and you have kids. And I'm like, that's not me. I get angry, man. Man, dude, that mental obsession is going to kill me. And he said, "What happens to you when you drink?" And I had to look at my drinking. I had to look at 9 years old and I took a drink for the first time. It connected me to you. I had to look at when I was in high school, man, terrified, loser kid. You know, I was picked on, bullied on, make me alcoholic, drug addict. I hated myself more than you could bully me. And when I drank alcohol in high school and I did drugs in high school, it connected me to you. I looked at the fact that alcohol and drugs took every bit of fear and security away. It became a solution to my life. And what I started to see was that alcohol and drugs stripped me of self-worth, dignity, pride, everything, anything good I had in me, any moral fiber that I had in me, it stripped away all that. And he said to me, he said, when you're not drinking and using drugs, what is your thought process that leads you back to the thing that's going to kill you? And I had to look at how I justified my alcoholism, right? With the fact that I wasn't an alcoholic, that all the drugs were the problem. I was holding on to the one thing I was holding on. I wasn't willing to let go of. Completely sober. I can't even smoke weed. How about some kratom? Not even a little kratom. I don't know if you guys have that over in your parts of the country world, but man, I'll tell you later, Reggie. I saw you ask. And he said, "Pat, if you can concede both propositions, physical, that when you put anything into your body, you can't stop and end up in jail. And more importantly, with a sober mind, you have a mind that's driving you back to the thing that's going to kill you." He said, "You might be alcoholic and drug addict." He still allowed me. He didn't point the finger, "You might be." And he left me in this silence, man, that I couldn't lie to myself. I could lie to you. I could tell you why. I couldn't lie to myself. And I looked at him and I said, I was like surprised. I was like, "Jack." He goes, "What?" I go, "I'm alcoholic." I go, "I'm alcoholic." I go, "That means I'm a drug addict and alcoholic." Like for the first time in my life, man, I believed to my innermost self that I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. Already knew I was a drug addict, but I didn't know I was alcoholic too. And every time I drank alcohol, I smoked crack cocaine. Every time I drank alcohol, I shot heroin. Every time I drank alcohol, I did methamphetamine. Every time right? And I surrendered. And it was just like defeated. You know what I mean? And then he lit up like a chandelier, dude. He was like, "I got a new guy." He was so stoked. He called everybody from the detox. "Come on over here, meet this new guy. I got new guy Pat. Hey, this is new guy Pat. And then Pete there, John and Bo and Joe, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm alcoholic too, and I'm a drug addict too." And we're like, "All right, high five." All of a sudden, I had some like pride. I was an alcoholic drug addict or something. You know what I mean? And we just started telling our stories, man, sitting around the table telling all the war stories. I hear some weird things around the rooms. You know what I mean? I recently I heard that we don't tell our drug-a-log or we don't tell our war stories. No, man, I don't believe in that stuff, man. Keep telling your story, right? Keep telling your story, man. I need to hear, right? The new guy coming back in, man. I asked him, "What did you do?" I didn't go to meetings. I didn't call my spot. I need to hear that. Tell me that, right? Tell me that when you went out there, man, the things that happened, all the yets that you said weren't going to happen. Tell me about those. I need to know about those because my mind says, you know what? You're 22 years clean and sober, bro. You don't need to go to meetings anymore. My mind, 22 years sober, says you don't need to call your sponsor anymore. I need to know exactly what happens. And we did. We sat around the table and we told our stories and we talked about going to jail and we talked about prostituting ourselves and we talked about these things, And what happened was it connected me to you. And the little sponsor guy, he goes, "Hey guys," he goes, "when you're not drinking, what are your thoughts about not drinking?" I said, then we started talking about him. We started talking about our alcoholism. And he talked about God. I didn't believe in God. I told him I'm not going to believe in God. He goes, "You don't need to believe in God, kid." He goes, "But can you believe in a higher power?" And I was like, "Come on, bro. You're trying to trick me into the God thing, dude. You know what I mean?" He's like, "Well, have you ever gone to the ocean and tried to stop a wave?" He's like, "That's a power greater than yourself. And I didn't believe in that garbage, bro. I'm too smart for that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it works for a lot of people. I don't mean garbage as it. That's how I thought at the time. I'm like, that's garbage. That's lame. That's dumb. That same mind, right? My mind is jacked up. And he goes, "You know what, Pat?" He goes, "I'll tell you what." He goes, "I just want you to say a prayer. God, I don't believe that you exist, but old man John told me to pray, and then just tell God your problems as if you did believe." He tricked me. You know what I'm saying? He tricked me because I believed in you guys. I believed in your stories. You know what I mean? Reggie talk about, man, how he was sober, a year. You know, old Jess was talking about being sober for 5 years. You talked about the 12 steps and the good life you had. I believed in your stories. I believed in the storytelling society we are here. I came to believe in you guys. You guys gave me hope. And so I did what you told me to do. And at the Charlie Street, man, there was no like, a step a month. There was no like, we're gonna take our time. It was like do it or die. I didn't want to die, dude. I didn't want to die. 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 And you gave me hope that I didn't have to die, man. You gave me hope. You told me things like you're not a bad person, you're just sick. We have a spiritual solution here. You tell me things like, "You know what, Pat, one day your story's going to help another alcoholic drug addict." And I believed you. I did. I just believed you. I believed you. Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you to all of you that continue to come here because I believe in you. And 4 days sober, my sponsor's like, "You're gonna go to you're gonna go to court and turn yourself in on a 3.5 year prison term." And I was like, "That seems a little much." You know what I mean? He's like, "But no," he's like, "You're on your ninth step now. You're on your ninth step, kid. Everything's gonna be all right, kid. You're gonna go there." And he goes, "You have God in your life too. God's gonna take care of you." And I was like, "I don't believe in God." He said, "You can borrow my God." He said, "You can borrow my God. Why don't you take my God with you?" I did. I went and turned myself in on 3.5 years in prison term, and I got sentenced to 3.5 years in prison. And that mind, man, why'd you trust that guy? You never trusted men your whole life. He told you can believe in his God. His God's pretty bad because his God's sending you to prison too. And that same mind, man, I got on my knees. I was like, "God, I don't believe that you exist, but this guy John told me to pray, and I don't want to go to prison, God. Like, I don't want to go to prison, man. I don't want to go to prison." And I got put on the prison bus. Off to prison I go. And I'm looking outside the window and I'm thinking, man, the one time you wanted to be sober and the one time you're trying to do this thing right, man, you're going to prison. And started having a conversation with God. I said, "God, if you let me out of this thing, I promise I'll do whatever I can to help Alcoholics Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous. I'll do whatever I can. Please get me out of here." I had made those foxhole prayers many times, guys. You know what I mean? But I meant it. That time I meant it. I was like, "What the heck?" And the bus engine started and the door closed, and all of a sudden the lady came on. She said, "Ochoa." And like three of us raised our hands. That means there was three Ochoas on the bus, and she called my last name, which I thought was pretty cool. The other guys were mad, man. They were like, "What the?" And I got off and I went in front of that judge, and the judge said, "I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm going to give you another chance." He said, "There's a member of AA and CA," and he pointed to my sponsor over there. He goes, "That guy's been fighting for you all day to get out." man, if you're new, I don't know who's new here because we didn't ask. At least maybe you'll ask later. But if you're new, that's what we do here in Cocaine Anonymous, man. We help each other. We fight for each other's lives here, man. We fucking fight for each other's lives here. And that guy fought for my life. He fought for my life to the day that he died. He believed in me the times I didn't believe in myself. He gave me hope. He said, kid, he said, your story one day is going to help another. And I believed him. And I got out and I went to the Salvation Army, to the court ordered program. And I walked in, and the guy that answered the phone on my sponsor call was a guy I used to get loaded with. And he had gotten sober and he had become a counselor. And see, God's working in my life, though I can't see it, you know. And 16 more minutes. Oh man, I could tell my whole story again. And is that how long? Yeah, 16 minutes, 50 seconds. And man, I'll tell you what happened though. That ego came back. You guys know that when the ego comes back, dude, I was spiritual that day. You know what I'm saying? I was spiritual for about 90 days. Well, no, that's a lie. Maybe 30 days, gratitude. But at the Salvation Army, man, they make you work 60 hours a week. You'd get a $3, $3 a week for gratuity. That doesn't add up. I don't know. What's that? 2 cents an hour? And I start getting a resentment, man. These guys are taking advantage of you, right? That same mind. These guys are taking advantage of you. Now, I don't equate that they're paying for my rent and my food. I just take, you know what I mean? That should be free because I'm still a taker. And so I ended up leaving and I went to this other place and I became a manager at a restaurant. I was making amends. I was at the meetings. I was helping. I was of service. I was like the best I'd ever felt in my life, you know, 90 days sober or whatever it was. And I went to go to the judge to tell him what I did with the opportunity he gave me. He just gave me an opportunity to not go to prison for 3.5 years. 90 days later, I left the treatment center and I went into the court and he looked at me and he said to me, I'm glad AA and CA is working for you. I'm glad you're on your 9th step and you're making amends. He said, I read all these letters from all these people in the fellowship and you're very loved. And I'm glad that you're sponsoring people. Glad that you're helping out the meetings. That's really good. He said, I think it would be a disservice if I sent you to prison for 3.5 years. He said, but I am going to give you a violation of probation. You're going to jail for 100 days. And I'll tell you what, going to jail that day, I have never been freer in my life. Handcuffed, going to jail for 100 days. I've never been freer in my entire life because I knew that I was never going to have to go to jail another day as long as I did AA and CA in the 12 steps and continue to help another alcoholic. My sponsor said, when you go to jail, you're going to read the book like your life depends on it. And you're going to go there and you're going to try to be a service to others. And you're going to look for the gratitude in jail. Not like I'm grateful for my family at home. No, I'm grateful that we had hamburgers today, right? I'm grateful that I got to go to an AA or a CA meeting today. Things inside of there. I'm grateful that I have a double cushion. I'm grateful that today I got a brand new jumpsuit. You know what I'm saying? I have to wear the old one. You know what I mean? I'm grateful. And so I did. And I got the big book and I'm like going line by line. I got a little dictionary and I'm looking up words and I'm studying like that thing, like my life depended on it. And this guy in jail, man, he was offering me meth. He was offering me Pruno, which is alcohol. And I'm like, man, I'm good. And he's like, dude, you're a snitch. And I was like, no. I sat these 6 guys down and I told them my story, man. And they listened to my whole story like they are today. And I mean, they were stuck. They had nowhere to go. They had to listen, you know. But I got done telling my story, and that guy looked at me. He said, you're right. We don't want to give you any. And he started to cry. And I was about 100 days sober, 110 days sober. And he said, man, I'm looking at 10 years in prison, and I don't want to go to prison. And we started talking about his life and what happened to him under the influence of methamphetamine. I committed some crimes. And I said, man, I went to the judge. I told him I was a drug addict, alcoholic, and I needed help. And he sent me to a program. I said, maybe he'll do that for you. This looks like sponsorship. I'm carrying my experience, my strength, and my hope. I just shared my experience with him. He went to the judge the next day, and he went to court. He came back and he gave me a big hug in front of all these dudes, man. He gave me a big hug. He cried in my arms and he said, they're going to release me to the Salvation Army program. He said, but I can't stay sober in here. Like, you're staying sober. I can't. And I sat down with him and I read word for word and line for line, like that guy Jack did for me when I went into Charlie Street. 100 days sober, reading the book. I said, what happened? I said, what's the effect produced by alcohol? He said, I'm not alcoholic. I said, I didn't say you're alcoholic. I just asked the effect. He started to look at the effect produced. I shared my effect produced. I said, what happens in between drinks? He started talking about I looked at him. I said, if you can concede both propositions, physical, then when you put alcohol and drugs in your body, you can't stop and end up in jail. And more importantly, with a sober mind, you have a mind that's driving you back to the thing that's going to kill you. I said, you might be an alcoholic drug addict. He said, I'm an alcoholic. He got excited and he believed in a God that I didn't believe in. But it didn't matter. His God was way bigger than mine. We got down to the institution and did a third step together in that institution. He got out. I got out. I went to the Salvation Army every Sunday like my sponsor did for me. I rode the bus 2.5 hours. And then we got to his fifth step and I rode the bus 2.5 hours and that guy left. He left the Salvation Army, went and got loaded. And I called my sponsor and I couldn't believe it, man. Maybe if I would have went an extra day or did an extra something or could have given a little more. And my sponsor said, Pat, who's still sober? I said, I'm still sober. He said, exactly, Pat. One alcoholic drug addict working with another alcoholic drug addict, one day at a time at institution kept me sober. You know, I caught fire for this thing, man. I don't care, man. Anybody ask me to do anything, I just say yes and I show up like today. And what are we talking on the firing line? Dude, dude, I'm excited for this thing. You know what I mean? I love it, you know? And like I got this guy, dude, this new guy, man. He called me. He was a drug and alcohol counselor, right? At this treatment center. And they call the sponsors of guys that they're clients. I don't know if you guys do that, but they call and they interview them. You know what I mean? And what are your thoughts about 12 steps and blah, blah, blah. How much time you got and all this stuff, you know, make sure they got a good guy, you know, and I talked to the guy and, you know, I passed the test, you know, I'm allowed to sponsor him. And then like, I don't know, a couple of weeks later, 3 weeks later, a month later, he called me again. He said, hey, Pat, I'm in Idaho at my sponsee's treatment center. And I thought, oh, that's great. You know what I mean? That's great. Were you over there speaking or something? He said, no, I'm a client. And that guy had a relapse, right? Because he forgot, right, that we do this for fun and for free, right? We do this for fun and for free. That's work. That's great. But I need to double up my efforts over here if I'm going to be over there. He forgot. And he wasn't willing to do what we do. He got loaded. He wasn't willing to do what we do. He got loaded. He's the kind of addict, dude, that fucking shoots fentanyl and dies. He's died 4 times in the last, I don't know what's it been. He's got 76 days today. So the last 5 months, he's died 4 times because he's not willing to do what we do. And 77 days today. So 77 days ago, he wouldn't give up his car, man. He was in sober living. He wouldn't give up his car. I said, man, you need to give up that car and ask fellas from the fellowship to take you to meetings. He wouldn't give it up. He wouldn't give it up. And every time he has a bright idea, he ends up on Skid Row, right? And so he had 77 days ago, he goes to Skid Row, shoots dope, comes to with the residents of Skid Row, which the homeless folks busted the back window of his car, Narcaned him twice. He didn't come to twice. So another resident of Skid Row, another homeless guy, shot methamphetamine up his nose. Boom! He woke up right away. And the Skid Row resident told him, you need to learn how to get high responsibly. I don't know if that's a bottom or not, but I told him, I said, man, that's pretty low, bro. You know what I mean? When the other drug addicts are telling you, right? And he called me that day, man. We went and put him in detox, and I'll tell you what he did. He said, Pat, I'm willing to do anything you tell me to do. I said, you need to get rid of that car. He called his mom. He said, Mom, come pick up my car. Well, he had busted window. He got to tell his mom, I got to tell her. I said, yeah, you need to get honest about the broken window. You know what I mean? And so he did. He got honest about the broken window. Yesterday, we sat down. This kid didn't believe in God 77 days ago. He'd tell me why God wasn't real, why God is all this, why God, F God, that. Yesterday, we were at the AA district picnic. The kid did a third step. We got in that picnic. We read the book. We read the 60 to 63. We did the deal. We got on our knees. I said a personal prayer. I put his hand into the hand of God. He said the prayer. He read his decision to God. And there was two ladies over there. I had got up and left while he could do meditation. He comes, tells me the story. There's two ladies about 20 feet away who watched us do this third step. And when he got up, those ladies said, that prayer looked attractive. Will you come pray with us? 77 days ago, this kid didn't believe in God. He sat with those ladies after his third step and he said a prayer with them. This is about transformation, man. I've been transformed from the inside out. I didn't know that I could love another human being on the level that I love you today. I didn't know that I can be loved on the level that I'm able to let you love me today. You know, my son graduated high school. I don't know what it's like over the other side of the pond, but in America, he graduated with a 4.5 grade point average, which is like, you know, you got to take special smart kid classes to get that. And he got himself into the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, fashion design major, you know. And this kid's already talking about how he wants to go to France, you know, for his bachelor program to study fashion design. That's not my experience. You know what I mean? I'm a ninth grade dropout. You know what I'm saying? And this kid is blowing me away. But I asked him, you know what I mean? I've brought all the guys sponsoring his license. He's been a little boy, you know what I mean? TJ Bryant, rest in peace, overdosed on heroin. And my son was very, very close to TJ Bryant. You know, my guy sponsored for a long time, Johnny Martinez, you know, in and out of program. My son was very close to him and experienced what the relapse looked like, you know, from a relationship standpoint. Johnny has 9 years today. He sees how the program of Cocaine Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous works. You know, I sponsored a guy that was white supremacist, walked off the yard in prison. Today, his best friend, he has put all those prejudices aside, and all are welcomed into his world. You know, my son sees the power of Cocaine Anonymous and the 12-step process and a loving God, how it can transform us from the inside out. And I said to Eden the other day, I asked him right before he left for college, I said, what would you equate your success to? And this fast, he said, because of Alcoholics Anonymous and Cocaine Anonymous. Every member that you brought into my life that shared their story with me has altered my life. He sent the guys I sponsored last week a text thanking them, you know, and not because of any greatness I am. I don't even have a dad. I don't know how to be a dad, right? But because of you and your examples in my life of living a principled life has allowed me to go into my household and live a principled life. I didn't have principles when I got here, right? I knew how to like manipulate and con people to get things, you know, and and I was driving home 2 nights ago. Anyway, it doesn't matter. 2 nights ago, and I'm driving, and I just like just start crying, you know, and sadness, you know, because that's my buddy. That's my buddy, you know, and he's on the other side of the country, and I miss him, you know. I have a tremendous like sadness for him being gone. And then I'm afraid, you know, he's in New York, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a long ways away from home. I can't just jump, hop in a car, go walk down the street, right? Like I have to like learn how to trust the loving God. My whole life's been a punishing God. I need to learn how to trust the loving God today. It's one thing to believe, but it's another thing to trust. And my experience so far over the last 2.5 weeks is it's a beautiful journey, right? It's like I get to feel the feelings of happiness. I get to feel the feelings of being proud for my son. I get to feel the feelings of what deep love feels like. I get to experience sadness. I get to experience fear, right? It's a journey that I get to go on, and there's nothing wrong with feelings that I perceive to be wrong. It's just a feeling. And I get to feel it. I get to honor it. I get to allow myself to feel it, to walk through it and get to the other side and then share with you and be honest with you about how I feel. That I get to say, you know what, I'm afraid. And every time I say that I'm afraid, another member of the fellowship puts out their hand and it's like, you know what? Like I'm afraid too. I got a text the other day because of Facebook. I'm pretty open. I put myself on there. I got a text from someone that I know, acquaintance. He said, "Hey, you want to meet me for lunch?" I said, "Okay, sure." And then I got real skeptical. I'm like asking people, "Why does he want to have lunch with me? This is weird." And because I got the mind, you know what I mean? You're out to get me. And I went and he said to me, he said, "You know what?" He's like, "You know why I met you?" I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because I just sent my kid to college too." And we were able to share with one another like the feelings that we have about it. Like my mind wants to separate me from having a special connection of love with another human being. And when I open myself up and I allow you to love me, right? Like so many gifts come. Um, Joey, I hope it was all right. I don't really even know what I said today. I open my heart and let God come in. If you're new, I want to welcome you to Cocaine Anonymous. If you're struggling, you're on the struggle bus. I understand. I know what it feels like to want to. Anyways, I love you all. Thank you for the opportunity.